In Eastern philosophy, they call it sadhana, your daily spiritual disciplines. I started to realize that meditation is not using your mind, it's losing your mind. Though I was doing everything perfectly, I was going to the gym, I had good friends, money was coming to me somehow because I was serving stuff. There's like this weird sadness in me. Unexplainable, very subtle sadness.
It really shows the power of surrender and how we really don't have like a clue what that word really means.
Everything I ever chased, every woman, a girl I chased, every goal I chased, every business I chased, every new reputation, award, sex, or experience through a drug or a party, everything was to fill this bottomless hole, this belief that I'm alone. That was the beginning of my true spiritual experiment.
And before we begin today's episode, I'd like to just take a moment to thank you, the listenership, for taking your time and attention to listen to today's podcast. And I have a request. If you'd be willing to leave a comment or review, subscribe, like on whatever platform you're listening to this on. It helps me grow the podcast, the audience, find new guests, and complete the mission of making this one of the most impactful conversations today that we're having as a human race. And without further ado, here is today's guest. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Embracing Human podcast. I am your host, Scott Stone, and I'm here today with a very special guest, Armin Shafee. And I just want to take a moment and read part of his Instagram bio because I think it's going to lay the groundwork for this incredible conversation we're about to have. And it goes as follows. Achieved millions but wasn't happy and walked away. Now, almost 600 days into my surrender experiment. Walk that surrender path with me. Armin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to our meditation of a conversation.
Yes. That's actually a really great place to start is the distinction between being meditative and meditating. And so could you tell me a little bit about what that path has been like for you of coming home to yourself and getting to know what you call to be God?
What a wonderful question to start with. Well, off the bat, I'll say I used to meditate when I ran a business, multiple businesses, and I would do like the whole 10 or 20 minutes a day. And then, a lot of people think meditation is like, downloading the Headspace app and listening to Matthew McConaughey, whisper sexual affirmations into your ears, but it's not.
It's not?
Oh, bummer, right? And it's what most people call meditation today is just actually more attachment. It's more attaching to feeling good because they don't like feeling bad. And so when you exploit meditation, the sacredness of meditation, as a means to an end to relieve yourself of stress, then you really truly are insulting the very infinite nature of what it really is. When I started to take my meditation seriously, in Eastern philosophy, they call it sadhana, your daily spiritual disciplines. When I started taking my sadhana seriously, I started to realize that meditation is not using your mind, it's losing your mind. And more specifically said, that there's so many forms of meditation that gets you to fix your mind upon something like an object, even God himself. And what you're doing is you're developing a stronger attachment to that object in your mind. But the purest form of meditation that develops concentrative absorption, mind, the awareness doesn't become aware of something, it becomes aware of itself. Then what happens? That experience is more like I don't like saying transcend the mind because it's not like a hierarchy, but rather you fall inward behind the stage of the mind. So it's far more that you kind of absorb inward. And that experience of pure stillness and absence of all stimulation, that nothingness, that void, that some call it samadhi, that this place of just where God is creating from the womb, that's meditation. But to get to that point, it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of unlearning things around meditation. The main thing I've learned is that there's single thought meditation and no thought meditation. And single thought is what most people do, which is they think of one thing. Even, spiritual teachers, ancient, yogic science teaches single pointed meditation. But the one that I've gravitated towards the most, which was more of actually the Buddhist, I didn't realize it was the Buddhist teaching, is no thought, is just the experiencing awareness of awareness itself, not thinking of something, but just leaning into the nature of awareness itself, So through that meditative experience, you kind of absolve or dissolve that thin layer, a veil between you and God, which is the mind. And when the mind kind of dissolves, you kind of reemerged back with the infiniteness of God's consciousness. And then in that experience, you're not anyone, you're everything and nothing all at the same time. And then you come back into this human body and you're like, how do I live life now? It's a whole nother conversation. but but that's what meditation really is. Other than that, it's really just a mental practice to change your focus to feel good instead of feel bad. Unfortunately, that's pretty much the surface level use for it for most people.
Mm. Yeah, it's a interesting landscape to look at, and especially Western culture and a lot of Western culture driving Eastern culture nowadays of seeing how we'll call yoga to be hijacked. And you said a word in there, samadhi, bliss, right? Ecstasy, the connection with God, and meditation. And so for those that don't know, in the Ashtanga of yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, samadhi, bliss state being the highest one that Armin referred to, and then 7th being meditation. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and I'm so happy you mentioned this, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and the 8 limbs of yoga, and how most people skip the first 2 steps. The first 2 rungs of this ladder, the yamas and niyamas, are the foundational groundwork to lay everything on top of it. And you get these people who are now like, yeah, I just do breath work, and I do a yoga practice, and I meditate. And it's like, great. How's that talk to yourself going?
Yeah.
And yeah, tell me a little bit about what your journey with that was like, whichever way you want to take that question.
Yeah. I mean, even in the Buddhist path, and I'm not, for record, I'm not Buddhist or Hindu or anything. The closest thing I would say I study right now is self-realization, which somehow when I read it from Paramahansa Yogananda, it feels like he's my heart speaking to me. It feels like home. His
Mm.
lessons are beautiful. And I recommend everyone actually going to the SRF website, buying it. It's like $100. I can't believe it. It's like 18 lessons, ancient yogic science. And I started studying this after I had all my experiences. And it served as a language to put to the experiences I didn't have words to explain. So I've been actually learning about the ancient yogic sciences after directly sitting in the nature of so many of them. And then I like read the Gita and I'm like, oh, that's where that technique of meditation is. I thought I was just making it up when I was sitting there because there was so much I just kind of did. For example, like pointing the eyes at the tip of the nose. I started doing this and I would feel uh, incredibly still and centered with my consciousness. And I was able to actually focus on God more. And then I read Gita and it says, the yogi who focuses on the point of the nose. This is there's a word for it too, for the type of meditation, the mudra. This is how you meditate on God. And then even in self-realization, these Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras even teaches the tip of the nose. I didn't know. So my journey has been kind of backwards. I threw myself into deep surrender and shadow work. I didn't realize I was doing that. And my first step was regaining willpower from the mind because I was enslaved to all my cravings and aversions. That was the first thing I realized, that I can't even get myself to do something because it's a little uncomfortable. Like, whose life am I living then? Right. So it's funny, the first 30 days alone of this documenting every day of my life as I took possession back of my mind was a lot of just outwitting the devil, that the voice in your head, and just opposing it, like defying my ego. So I would get up and it's like, let's sleep, or I'm like, nope, getting up. And if I woke up and it's like, we need to get out of bed, I'd be like, nope, we're staying in, we're sleeping in. Like, just no matter what it said, I was like, no, it's not happening. Right. And so I started to do this in extreme ways. And I have a YouTube video up called 29 Lessons I Learned from Outwitting the Devil. It's in 30 days. I actually had 45 lessons, but I boiled it down to 29. But all those breakthroughs were around me facing that voice in my head, like with a strong kind of will. The other thing I did was start going to the gym every day. I'm like, every day I don't even care anymore. I just got to step foot in the gym and do something. It doesn't matter. In my mind, like, Mom, please. And people would be like, oh, rest days. I'm like, I don't care. I'll rest when I sleep. So there's just this strong exercise of my will over my mind. And that became the bedrock, actually, of the later things that happened. It got really spiritual on my journey because at first I was just doing it to like change my life around because I'd reach a really big low again, a really low low. And then I realized that all this control I developed over myself, over my mind and my body, what is it for? Because no matter though I was doing everything perfectly, I still felt empty. I was going to the gym. I had good friends. Money was coming to me somehow because I was serving still. I was going beyond helping people. I still feel bored, like something's missing. So I kind of spent weeks contemplating meditatively on just why am I bored? And if you hear the episodes at that time, literally every other episode's like, I still feel bored. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's like this lingering feeling that something's off. I don't get it because everything externally is good. Even internally, I'm feeling everything. It's like, but something is just taunting me. And eventually on day 34, I had the breakthrough. And it wouldn't have been possible without, like you said, the initial yogas that people overlook. Even in Vipassana, when you go for like a 10-day silent retreat, the first things they're teaching you is all the morals of living before they teach you any technique of meditation. Just like not lying, not indulging in sex, not developing passion that generates samskara, that feeds the ego. Just do's and don'ts of life alone is the bedrock. Without those, your mind isn't creating an environment for you to go into meditation, right? It being the absence of meditation of mind itself. So the beginning was a lot of self-mastery, funny enough. It's almost like personal development is the beginning of the yoga path, but everyone just gets stuck there and they cycle back to losing it all and then doing it again and losing it all. So this is like a new form of enslavement. Is growing and succeeding, then failing and dying and growing and succeeding. It's like I did that several times in a course of 10 years in my journey as an entrepreneur. Finally, though, on day 34, I was recording. It was a normal day. I just finished with a client. I went to the gym. I was saying all this stuff. I'm like, I almost wanted to hit on this girl, but I didn't hit on the girl. So like, that's another win against my ego because was having the impulse, to wanting to, talk to that girl, but I proved to myself I don't need it. So I dissolved that reaction. So as I was doing all that, and then at the end of the episode, I'm recording, and I'm like, but I can't help but still feel something. There's like this weird sadness in me, unexplainable, very subtle sadness. So I leaned into it. In self-study, self introspection is a form of meditation itself. It's a form of yoga because I'm sitting there and I'm just concentrating all my awareness on the nature of my own self in that moment. And I was feeling what I was feeling. Most people aren't like that. Mine's scattered. It's just concentrating. And finally, I reached a new layer, a deeper layer underneath that boredom, the sadness. And I'm like, oh my God. As I'm sitting there, I'm like, what if I'm just lonely? I kind of expanded outside of my body and I saw myself sitting there in a room alone, recording an episode. I'm like, what a sad scene. It's kind of sad. I'm just sitting here all alone. Why am I all alone? And then I looked at my life, and then the mind works like a projector screen the moment you start to reach deeper layers, right? I'm sure you know this. And it starts to like show you your life, like memories, like movie screens, right? It's kind of what happens when you die. Like if you meet people who have died, they say they see their life flash before their eyes. It's quite literally because a yogi knows you're scanning through every samskara recorded in this life that the mind absorbed. So now I'm seeing it, but when you're in deep meditation, it's a form of death. It's psychedelic. So you're seeing what you would see when you're dying. So I start to see my life flash in front of my eyes. And I start to see how lonely this Armin guy was. So lonely, so much external success, so lonely. And then I kept going back into the earliest memories of my life. And I somehow remembered a memory, odd memory to remember, of a dream I had when I was a kid, not even a real memory, a dream as a kid, where my parents walk me to the end of a bridge. There's a dead end and leave me there and walk away. And I turn around and I'm trying to scream for them, but I can't speak. What a sad dream. And I just started to break into tears in that moment because I was accessing the samskara in my body and in the mind of where this initial sadness began. Just a dream, simple dream. Simple moment in my life where as a kid, I guess I felt abandoned and alone. Like I don't really have a home. I actually realized, poetically speaking, that I was spiritually homeless. I didn't feel I belong even in my own family. So then where do I belong? So this became the underlying influence and drive for everything I did in my life. And it became so clear, dude. I was recording the episode like a meditation. I'm like, oh my God, this is screamingly obvious. Everything I ever chased, every woman, a girl I chased, every goal I chased, every business I chased, every new reputation, award, sex, or experience through a drug or a party, everything was to fill this bottomless hole, this belief that I'm alone. And it didn't help to think God is there with me because I meant I'm like actually alone. Like God is one with me, but that means God's alone with me. And that's even a deeper sadness. I and God are alone. And dude, it broke me into this beautiful release, sitting right there in my office, recording like this in front of a mic. And you could hear in the audio if when I publish it one day, we'll see. I'm crying and I connect to that kid in me. And I'm like, you're not alone anymore.
Mhm.
And I just held him, man.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm ready to let this go.
Mhm.
And with it, every other attachment I had and motivation to achieve things to fill that insecurity. And bro, literally in an instant, my desire, any little bits of it I had for being something grand in my life just dissolved. It
Mhm.
was the greatest death. And I immediately felt waves of energy and joy go through my body. Like it was so instant. It was like magic. I was like, what's going on? I felt like a kid woke up in me. And you could hear in the audio, I'm saying, I'm like, oh man, I feel great. Because the samskara just dissolved, dude. That blockage of energy, just the biggest one in me, probably.
Mhm.
That was the beginning of my true spiritual experiment. Because up until then, I thought it was just me, changing my life. But it turned into like a really mystical experience after that. From day 34 to 100, it became real mystical, bro. Like experiences. And like, one day I'll maybe write it in a book or something, but it's like it got freakishly, uncontrollably mystical.
Mhm.
I'm like things happening that I can't really explain. But it started with that facing myself,
Mhm.
face disciplining my mind and then facing the source of that discipline. Why am I disciplining my mind? And
Mhm.
how is it not still making me feel complete?
Mhm.
It was good, man. At the time I was partnered with Think and Grow Rich, I was about to go into an official partnership with them. I'd worked 5 years for that relationship. I thought it was my dream because I was going to become like the next Bob Proctor, essentially. Like I was able to I was with the institute. I met the CEO of Foundation of Napoleon Hill Foundation. And I was like the speaker for it. I was the guy. I could have been like my life was set to be like Bob Proctor until I'm like 100. And within 30 days from that day 34, partnership just peacefully dissolved out of some unexpected miscommunication. But I was so at peace with it. I didn't even try to fight it or fix it or try to, like I'm like, you know what? I think it's okay. And two other ventures that I was starting again, just they disappeared. And that was there I was with nothing left to do, no vision, no goals, no desire, no nothing, just being for the first time in 10 years of chasing success. And I'm like, whoa, this is a whole new dimension to be living in. I have nothing to chase. So now what? Let's know what it's like to just be, to
Mhm.
just exist. What is that like? And that
Mhm.
became the real, surrender experiment for me.
Mm. Mm. Man, I'm so like tickled to know that there's a multiverse because 17 of me just went in different conversation patterns of like I want to go down the doing being conversation or the surrender
Yeah.
man, I appreciate that story. It
Mm.
really shows the power of surrender and how we really don't have like a clue what that word really means. And I'll use a languaging distinction from German actually. There's two words in German, Aufgabe and Hingabe. And one means, and I think it's like I think Hingabe is to give up,
and Aufgabe is to give in, and it could be
Mm.
backwards, but the point being that like most people think of surrender as giving up, when in actuality, because our inefficient English language doesn't explain it well enough, it's like no, it's to give in to God, to fall into the void, and to, as Ram Dass says, you know, being human feels like you're falling through the air. Little do we know onto a feather pillow,
Yeah.
and
I love that.
like to just fall into it. And I'll share a story. I've never shared this publicly, and I've thought about it, but I understand that the internet has an interesting way of just making stories of stories. And so back in March, so 10 years ago, I was engaged to be married, and similar to you, I quote unquote had it all. I had the house, the car, the girl, the job, everything but me. Right. And I was incredibly unhappy, and I didn't know why, because I was like, wait a second, I did everything they told me to do. Like, I went to college, I got the degree, I got the job, six-figure salary, corporate America, Fortune 50 company, beautiful woman. But I hate like, I just don't like me. Like, what's going on? I'm so like discontent. And then I cheated on her, and long story short, we called off the wedding, and then I fell into a deep spiraling depression because I was all alone. There was nothing to block me from my misery anymore. And so things just started to come up. And in that despair came a lot of suicidal ideation and borderline attempting. And then I found guitar and I got really busy. And then I just like pushed it off to the side. Fast forward 10 years later, almost to the day, I am here in Hawaii, and I'm like, my life is really starting to like grow and maturate and all this stuff. And out of nowhere one day, these thoughts come back. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm starting to go viral on Instagram, and my coaching business is growing. And this part of me is coming back into the chat like, no, dude, we don't want to be here. And what was so interesting, and I'll never forget this, I was sitting in my bedroom. I literally told my girlfriend at the time, we've since separated, but I told her, I was like, please leave. Like, I literally had a gun in my hand, and I was like, I'm just going to kill myself.
Mm.
And so she finally leaves, and I'm sitting there in my room with this gun in my hand. And I'm like, how did this go? I was like, look, for the first time in my life, I dropped the resistance to him. And I was like, look, if this is what you want to do, I'll do it with you. And he turned around and looked at me. He's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, I just wanted you to stop hating me. And I was
Mm.
like, whoa, like, what just happened? And he completely dissolved instantly.
Wow.
It was gone. I haven't had a single thought of that even caliber or design in what has been now 8, 9 months. Like the best I've ever felt. Sober, no weed, no alcohol, no porn, no nicotine, nothing. And it's been through this like falling into the void of like, okay, I will no longer be in resistance to my experience. I broke up with that girl, and it's funny what you're talking about. It's like I've just been sitting in here silent. I live on 5 acres in the middle of the rainforest. And I just sit here in silence, and I'm like, now what? It's wild. And I think it's very like misconstrued because of society. It's like, no. And as you saw, right, the first 33 days of that experiment are like, well, if I just do it right, maybe I'll get even more,
Mm. Mm.
and to surrender even that thought form, that samskara, for those who don't know, the way the word samskara was taught to me. So think of it as ruts that, like, as a wagon goes through a dirt road, it creates a rut in that dirt. And that dirt is a past life habituation, you could call it. And in this life, we have an opportunity for our wagon to fall into said rut. And so, as Armin was talking
Mm.
about, right, in a way, when you sat with that little boy on that dock, you just like scurried the dirt, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, we're in complete unknown territory now. Now
Mm.
what?
Mm.
And so I love that for you. And wow, what a blank slate of possibility to step
Dude,
into.
what a story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wow. It's crazy. I just literally just had this conversation right before this. And we were talking about when God like created, when you read like yogic science from Yogananda, he teaches how God created Satan as a repulsive force that he projected out of himself as an individual consciousness. And so the inherent nature of it, of this satanic force, Maya, right? The duality, the law of that, the material world, is that it repulses God. Its inherent nature is to resist and oppose God. And so I related that to when we indulge in our vices. There's a part of us that's trying to resist and repulse the goodness or the peace that we are. And it's almost like it wants to test, are we still unconditionally worthy and complete
Yeah.
by doing what we're not supposed to do? And the path to dissolving essentially the power of that force within you, because you don't dissolve Satan itself. The force of Maya is there, but how much of it you're reflecting within yourself is completely dependent on to what capacity can you accept that all?
Hmm.
Can you accept your vice with love? And a lot of people think, well, I can't accept it because that means I want more of it. That's not what it means.
Mm-mm.
Just like you would think, people would think, what, you said you're going to kill yourself? That means you want to kill yourself. No, it just means I'm okay with it now.
Yeah.
And it's like that radical level of surrender is the actual, unfortunately, the unorthodox truth
Hmm.
to liberating suffering, but is the one thing everyone is completely convinced is not what you're supposed to do, which is, and this is why people don't forgive themselves for others, because they think to forgive means to condone.
Yes.
If I forgive the person who hurt me, that means I liked it or wanted them to. It's like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It means you just aren't afraid of it anymore. You're not rejecting it anymore. You're not judging it really anymore. It's like, man, the layer is so thin. It's so easy to miss. So that's why I have compassion. It's like, yeah, it's kind of hard to
Hmm.
figure that out.
Oh,
But you only know when you
sure.
meet your darkness and finally you accept it. And then it alchemizes right before your eyes
Hmm.
into love. It's like, what the fuck? Why don't you do that from the beginning, man? It's like that's the goal. I mean, that's my purpose. I'm the opposing force of you
Yeah.
to remind you what you are. I had the same thing. Mine was not suicidal ideation, which sounds like a riveting experience. That'd be really cool. See people would talk like this. Mine was indulging radically in my vices, which is binging entertainment, food. And I actually stopped with porn because I just didn't like how it felt eventually, but I used to be addicted to porn. But it was mostly food and entertainment. So like a TV and my comfort food was like my heaven on earth.
Hmm.
Like doing it for 15 hours without anyone telling me I can't. It's like that inner child in me was like, I want to break the scale. So I just spent a couple of months actually indulging so deep in it this year
Hmm.
while practicing my sadhana, which was crazy. And I unlayered so many layers to all of the shame and judgment and ego I had placed on it, on those actions and on that way of being. And when I finally accepted, let's say I spend the rest of my life doing this and become a fat loser, does nothing with his life and never gets like does the exact opposite of my nature, right? Am I okay with that? And I accept. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. The moment I accept it, it's like all the juice and fear and power I had over you, like scaring you into you shouldn't do this, it just dissolved. I'm like, what a fucking facade. Like what kind of deceptive mirage is this? Like what a player. It's like an actor the whole time. It's like someone's trying to mug you and you're like fighting them and you finally just like take my shit and they go, oh man, now I gotta stop acting. It's like they just walk away. It's like as soon as you catch it red-handed and you go, I accept you.
Hmm.
It's one of my favorite pictures I saw is the Buddha sitting there in meditation, and there's like a demon in front of it like this, and it's like this, and the Buddha's just having his hand on the forehead of the demon, and it's like no,
Hmm.
it's like you don't need to fight it, just no. So what a powerful story you shared, man, and what an extreme example of how many of us go through our same kind of death and rebirth in learning, returning to that truth again of accepting yourself unconditionally is the mere reflection of being God.
Hmm. Hmm.
The
Mm. Yeah. Thank you for that reflection. And I love the way you brought in Satan and Maya of just like, as you said, like the singular conscious entity, versus the opposite or opposed God-like uh, unity consciousness of all
Mm.
connection, and how singularity, ego, is the thing that we are so like much fighting in life. I saw this video recently from Zach Bush that said the way that like nature is coming through right now is what if its divine intelligence is to show us how deeply we believe that we're separate to reunify us as humanity. Like humans are the only thing, a bird doesn't fly over and go, there's a tree and there's a dog and that's a house. It's just flying. Whereas humans are like, no, Scott's over here and Armin's over there and this is mine and that's yours. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, young one, like keep going and you'll come to see, but this divine intelligence of life. And I'm curious what that looked like for you in the midst of it all, right? You said in this podcast I was listening to, like you had all the things. You had the houses and the cars and apparently the foods and the TVs, like all the things that you thought you wanted. And what does that look like for you now? Like what does the idea of Armin have for wants these days?
I have more than I need. I need less than I want. And somehow that's all happening and I never think about it.
I want to hear that again. You have more than you need and you need less than you want.
And somehow it's just happening and I don't think about it.
Mm.
And every now and then when I do think about it, I go, whoa. Like there's a period in my experiment where I like everyone thinks when I share the story, they're like, oh no, it's a surrender. I have to go broke and lose it. Like, no, you don't. But my journey specifically, I was so attached to needing to have a lot of money. And I built such an ego around it because I was so afraid of poverty. My journey was I wanted to stop being afraid of being poor or broke. And so I wanted direct exposure to that experience. And so after I closed out my businesses, I was left with some six figures of debt from the business because, we had contractors we didn't pay, credit cards and stuff like that. It was a big business. It was a seven-figure business. And usually you make the money to pay it off in like a couple of months, you know? But because I was so out of alignment with it in the last kind of year or so of that business, last 6 months of it, I really just stopped doing all the things you're supposed to do to make business, to make money. So it just slowly started to die. And I was in this illusion of like, my team should be figuring this out. It's like, no, it's a business around coaching. I'm the coach. If I'm not invested in being the guy who people are paying to learn from, they're not going to pay. But I wasn't accepting that reality. So I just kind of started to slowly make less and less money. And we had a lot of expenses. And I was stubborn. I didn't let people go. Like I really wanted to like help everyone. And so anyways, I was left with all this debt. And then I reached a point where I'm like, all right, I still need to make money to pay for things. Like we're literally bouncing bills. And I hadn't paid some of my employees' salaries. I'm like, I got to pay them. There's a few people left. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to force myself to make money the way I did. I wasn't willing. And some could say that's pretty selfish because I had people I had to pay. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm just not going to kill myself again to do it. I mean, so I have to accept the consequence of people not liking the fact that I'm doing that. And I'm like, it's okay. Because I know it's better for the greater good if I somehow let this thing die and am reborn. I could pay them back later. So I did. And I went through this period of time. I did end up paying everyone back. I went through this period of time, though, for like maybe 3 months where I was just broke, like no income. And I was used to for years, not only making income, but lots of it. And I went through 3 months of like, I really had nothing and I had to see how is my lifestyle going to hold up. Like I still had a place I was renting. I didn't buy a lot of things, but I still had to like pay for stuff. And while I was going broke and I had no money and income coming in, I was giving away like 20, 30, 40 hours of my time a week to calls for free to help people out. I was giving away things I charged for, giving away things I didn't know how to do. I was selflessly serving, just killing the ego by just giving with no gain. And when people would ask me, well, like, does surrender mean I have to go broke? I'm like, no. But my business with my ego was I was so afraid. It had me enslaved by the fear of going broke. I wanted to prove to it, it doesn't own me anymore. So
Mm.
how else than to let myself go broke while staying at peace and being at love and feeling God's love? And that was the big thing I constantly realized in my experiment. I kept testing for. So part of me was testing to see if this will God still love me. If I'm broke, am I still complete in God's eyes? And no matter what I did to myself, let myself go broke, gain a lot of weight, do the wrong things or untaboo things that you're not supposed to do, I never felt an absence of God's love,
Mhm.
which is very controversial because there's some things I shared in my episodes that one day will, if it does get released, people will hear that like, there's no fucking way. You're just full of shit. Like you weren't doing that well while feeling God's love. And I'm like, but I was. So that either
Mhm.
means God is always loving you and you're not willing to accept that, or I'm full of shit and I'm telling you to justify doing the wrong things, doing things that aren't, accepted by society and using God as a thing. It's your choice. It's funny because I shared that thing that I did with a group of guys, and a bunch of them were like, dude, that's fucking profound. And one guy's like, that sounds like a great justification for doing what you did. And I'm like, yeah, actually, it does, doesn't it? I guess you're gonna have to decide which one's true. Did I justify it? Or did I really feel God's love? And me doing that didn't make me exempt or unworthy of him.
Mhm.
So that's the more controversial side that people don't want to touch because you got to face a lot of things that you're uncomfortable with. Point being, though,
Mhm.
in this whole journey, I let myself go broke. And when I finally died, finally accepted the idea or reality of living this way, broke, losing everything, losing the place I was living in, everything,
Mhm.
only then did it ironically start to come in.
Mhm.
And I remember because for a couple of months, I was kind of tricking God because I was surrendering deeply. I was serving selflessly. I was deeply meditating, self studying. Everything was right
Yeah.
spiritually.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, well, this bill's coming up. So something good should happen. So every time I help someone, I was always like, maybe this guy will invite me to speak somewhere. Maybe he'll be. So every time my mind was addicted to the idea of catching, what does this mean? Maybe this is the thing that's going to be the miracle that brings the money in. And
Yeah.
so many things came as a reflection of my own mind, taunting me. Like some guy offered me 150 grand to buy my business domain because it's a really cool domain. It's highticketcoaching.com. So they're like, I'll pay you 150 grand for that in your business list. I'm like, sick. And I sat there and I have an episode of it. I'm like, wow, money miracle. That guy disappeared, never came through.
Yeah.
Right. But I was so like seeking, so attached to the idea of something like that happening that of course I manifested this in front of me as a taunting reflection of what I still thought was the benefits of surrender. And then a bunch of other shit. Like people come in and like I'd be like, they're gonna pay me. Some of these guys are gonna pay me money. Because I've never asked for it. Never. And then when they did, they like offered me $100. I'm like, nice. So I realize I'm still tricking God. I have this ulterior motive of God of like, you're going to bless me with more money if I keep serving you. And I had this very savior complex with God, like, save me. And then eventually I'm sitting in Colombia in a mountain all alone, no money left, family sending me money, which was a deep, shameful thing I had to also learn to accept because I'm like, fuck, family supporting me. This is shameful. I've been the one to have money most of my life and my family. And now it's like, I got to accept money from my family. I've really failed. So I had to face that ego in me. It's like, I really failed. It's like, did I? No, what's wrong with that? Finally, I came to a place where I'm like, what if I'm still deeply attached to need to keep up this life and still not surrendering? So every time I caught something, I'm like, I'm surrendering that too. God, if you want to take my life, my material, everything, take it. I don't even care anymore. So I had this moment, just deep, but just release that. I'm like, it's over. I don't care anymore. I'm not even looking for some good thing to happen to me. And literally, I think it was in the same month or the next month, someone came in and came back from a one-on-one call I did for free with them. They're like, bro, you really helped me out. Can I do more calls with you? And I'm like, sure. I'm like, why don't we? And I had this very peaceful, very gentle whisper in my heart that said, had the idea of what about making a custom program for him. It was a very different, it came from a very different place. It was like, why don't I just offer this? And I said, hey, would you want me to make a custom program for you? And we could like, I got to make sure though it's integrably, I know I can help you with whatever you want. So he told me what he wanted. And I said, well, actually, all the stuff I've been doing in my own few hundred days of surrender, I have a lot of the answers for this. So I can give you the practices. So we could do this. How long do you need? He's like, how about this? So we chose 3 months in the beginning. And then I just had a little bit of my old sales skills still there dormant. Just woke up a bit. And I'm like, I'm not going to sell, but I'm going to remember some of the principles I learned, which is price comparison, like structure around this stuff. So I'm like, look, I used to charge 25 grand for business coaching to see me once every other week for 3 months. That was my going rate. How about we do about half of that, 15? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. I went from broke, taking money from family, right? Accepting money from family to $15,000.
Mhm.
I gave a finder's fee to the guy that introduced me to him because for me, I'm like, let me just give away as much as I can. And he paid up front, so it was 12 grand. And then literally 2 days later, random kid from my Instagram hits me up. Yo, man, I saw you speak at my sales team 2 years ago. I've been following your shit. I really have this feeling that I need to get closer to God. I think you could help me. Do you have a program? 2 days ago, I built a custom one for that guy. And I'm like, this is a joke. And I looked up, I'm like, God, you serious? Like, this is how it happens? Like, this is the shit I thought would happen back then. But as soon as I accepted it's never going to happen, it starts happening.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I actually just made one. And it's 12 grand. He goes, will you accept? It was on WhatsApp. We didn't even have a call. He voiced on me. I voice noted him. He's like, I already trust you, brother. I saw you speak. I've seen your stuff. You don't need to tell me. Just, I have a budget. What is it? I'm like, 12 grand. He's like, will you accept 10? I'm like, yeah, sure. And so just like that, 22 grand. 20, well, four of it I gave to the other guy. So 18,000.
Yeah.
And then I got paid 2 grand because I was doing this talk for this group. Anyways, at the end of that month, it was October of last year. Okay. I'm like, did I just make 20 grand? Like it was odd to me. I'm saying like, the fuck just happened? I was literally broke a month ago. No foresight of where money's gonna come from. And I just out of nowhere, like quickly, there was no time to capture it or be something to do something with it. Whole new program built, private client process, all this stuff, all based off how I was living and doing what I was doing. So nothing was a projection of ego. It wasn't like I had to be something. Like in my business, I had to learn shit to teach.
Mhm.
But this was like just this is who I am.
Right.
And I had already done hundreds of one-on-ones, so it felt like it was still one-on-ones. The only difference is they paid me money. So it's like, but there's no difference. I'm still sitting there making a way for spirit to come through and guiding. And it like hit me. I'm like, holy shit, you can make money and not be attached. And that was the direct experience I had. I'm like, I literally just made it and I didn't even have time to think about the fact that I made it. That's detachment.
Mm.
And ever since then, I haven't been able to, I haven't, that feeling hasn't left. So now anytime I make money, there's not even like, there's no spark of, like, there's nothing. There's just, it's more money that came in because I still remember that experience of this is no different than a free client, but they just sent money. And
Mhm.
funny enough, I spent 16 of that 18 towards debts. I
Mhm.
just left 2 for my rent. And so like all of it left. It was like, it's not like profit in my hand. It was just money came and went. I'm like, oh, God's just using me as a bank now. I'm just wiring money through me and out. So it's been like that since. And I have made a lot more since then. Right. I have 7 private clients now. The program is more expensive and we made it longer, but none of it attached. And I have no desire to make it a business because I could hire people, I could build this. Not for now. Not for, I just want to keep doing more free stuff. Like I want to do a live webinar once we hit 1,000 members in my surrender school. And
Mhm.
it's a free school. I want to do a free webinar just to send them back to the free school. I just want to, I don't want too much money involved because it complicates things. And I'm so at peace with the relationship I have with it. It's like you stay there and just take care of what needs to be taken care of. Like we have money for everything we need. And on my side, I just keep serving.
Mm.
That's it. And if I don't feel like serving, I don't.
Mm.
If I don't do it out of this pressure of I need to, no,
Mm.
no. The one of the beautiful breakthroughs I had was a lot of people ask like, how do you know if it's ego, right, or soul when it's desiring to do something? I say simple. You get to a place where you need nothing, and when you need nothing, what you want is your true nature.
Mhm.
Because the ego is based on just the belief that you need something. You don't. You realize you need nothing. Then you'll have wants, and your wants are pure.
Mhm.
They're from a childish place of like, oh, I just want to. I had this idea for my school recently. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And it's like money involved, none involved doesn't make a difference. That experience of, yeah, I just want to,
Right.
right? It's not a desperate attempt to fill a void or to distract yourself. And you just know it's not. I don't know. You can't really, I've done my best to build like practical frameworks for how to know. And I have some good ones, but if I'm honest, you just know. You just
Yeah.
know when it's truth and when it's not,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I love that right there. This like you can't build practical frameworks for knowing. I was just having a conversation with ChatGPT yesterday of like give me the distinction between knowing and believing, right? And ultimately what it boiled down to was knowing, gnosis, is in the body, it's experiential. Whereas
Mm,
believing comes from a thought, right? So
Mm.
belief is, you can build frameworks for belief. You can't build a framework for knowing because it's actually something that you're in the process of experiencing. So,
Yeah.
how do you give that to someone unless they're already in
You
it,
don't.
and you
You
can't,
don't.
how do you explain,
No. Yeah.
and we're not women and don't have kids in 2025, anything's possible apparently, but like we can't have the gnosis of being birthing a child, like it's you got to punch that ticket. And
Yeah.
so yeah, this interesting, and this conversation is so timely and apropos of just what I've been going through, because it's been a similar experiment. I've been coaching for 6 years now, and I go through these interesting waves. Earlier this year, someone asked me, he was like, I want to work with you. It's just, who you are is just really inspiring. And he's like, what's it going to take? He's like, I want 3 months, and I'm going to like bar you from traveling off the island. And I was like, I don't know, 30 grand. And he was like, done. And I was just like, whoa, like what? And then at the same time, there's this other interesting aspect where people come to me, and I have it happen a lot, where people come and they're like, all right, I want to do this. And I tell them the price, and it's not that much. It's a couple thousand a month. And they're like, all right, I'll think about it. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Okay, so like there's an interesting like forcing aspect to this, but what you shared earlier about the fear of being poor. That was a big part of going back to Korea with my mom, is my mom grew up really poor. And so from like an inherited mitochondrial DNA aspect, like I got some interesting money stories, and one of them is about like being destitutely poor. And then these thoughts lately have been like, bro, like you don't have to be poor to get through this. Like you don't have to eat that shit soup to be okay with this. And it's like, okay, then what? And so this interesting surrender experiment of like having more than I need, and yet wanting more than I have. That was the discrepancy in what you said versus what I notice in myself. Like, okay, so there is still a part of me that is in lack, and based probably somewhere in not belonging and desiring to be seen, probably something like that, if I had to
Mm.
guess, a venture. And yeah, it's just an interesting thing that I think, I'll speak for myself, but also just a lot of people in this paradigm in reality these days are like, no, this isn't enough, and being addicted to the idea of myself. And yeah, life's divine intelligence being like, we're gonna work through this one, bud, because I strongly believe the path that I'm on is abundant, is abundance. And yet life is like, yeah, but we're just not gonna give it to you in a way where you're gonna squander it, like it just doesn't seems like there's so much more there. And so yeah, just a lot of what you shared deeply, deeply resonated. I'm like, do I need a private client with Armin?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, man, because for me, it's really easy to offer the private client to all the people I'm working with, most of them are like high net worth investors or business owners.
Mm,
And the way I found them was speaking, being invited to speak in groups, and then being like their official peace coach or whatever, And so, and it happens in the most unexpected ways, but still the idea of charging little bit things, like little things for, mass people. I have my some scar around that still.
mm,
And I realized I burnt, like, for me, it was easy to have a big and large investment with a large commitment from someone to themselves. And for me to walk them through a process that I literally am living and have lived and have so much content around, And not to mention, it doesn't even matter if I do, because I have the ability through meditation to quiet my mind and allow something else to come through. So it's like, it doesn't, like, there's literally no stress on me having to deliver. It's
mm,
their own desire to know God within, and then spirit, my ability to get out of the way so spirit comes through, which has happened many times in my calls. Like I do spiritual readings. I didn't realize I could, but
mm,
meditation, one of the benefactors of meditation. But when I think about promoting or launching something, even $100, $1,000, whatever, I've pushed that off. I definitely delayed that for divine. I call it delaying for divine,
mm,
because I don't want to do it until it feels like it's a yes everywhere.
mm,
And still a part of me feels, why would I do that?
mm,
If I can give it all for free, which I am in the school. And then for those of them that have the budget and the investment capacity and want to go very deep and have me committed to them because I like seeing them for an hour, hour and a half, like
Hmm.
so, a couple times a month. It's like it's a lot of depth.
Hmm.
If they want depth, then great. And that seems like a perfect balance to me so far. But
Hmm.
yeah, if I'm honest, I have this desire because I used to be a good marketer to
Hmm.
build something in the middle,
Hmm.
and I still haven't done it. So when you figure it out, let me know because I want to know what the relationship to that is. Because for me, I still feel like I wouldn't. I'd rather just give it for free. And it's like if some of
Right.
you are, but the good news is the private clients investment and the money from that is so large. Like I could do all the other stuff. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I don't need to. I even tried to make the surrender school like $50 a month when I started. And then we
Hmm.
got to like 20 members or 25 members. But I was so disappointed. And I was still in my surrender experiment because I'm like, God, I'm doing all the spiritual work. Like, shouldn't you be flooding people into my literally affordable, nothing, like close to nothing school? And
Hmm.
it like I had to like tell people, yo, you should join. And I'm like, this feels embarrassing. I had such a spiritual ego around it. I'm like, I should just come to me. And I had my account blowing up on Instagram. So I'm like, it should be easy. I just put up a link and 100 people sign up. It's like, no, it takes real effort. So I'm coming to realize no matter how spiritual you become, there's still a very real requirement of effort and will and accurate kind of planning and thinking and care that goes into launching an offering, a paid one specifically. Because I look at my brother Isan. I mean, Eisen fucking fills out 1,000 people on a $300 course, just 72,000 people on a $100 thing. And I look at that and I'm like, I still have some scar with that.
Hmm.
Like when I think about me trying to do that, I go, oh, there's a block there.
Hmm.
One of like, what would I look like? I
Hmm.
still have a little attachment to like being perceived a certain way.
Hmm.
I don't want, essentially, if I boil it down, I think the fear is putting something out there and it being rejected. It
Hmm.
doesn't even matter if most people buy, but if
Hmm.
some people end up disliking me because I made that offering, that's what I'm still. So it's very subtle, deep form of validation still. It's like
Totally.
I don't want to lose their validation because right now but it's like if I
Yeah.
put a price tag, they're gonna start calling me out.
Yeah.
Even though I don't actually believe putting a price tag on something makes you ungodly, which is a
For
ridiculous
sure.
belief. But I used to experience that. I felt that. It still would suck to know I'm giving them, whoever them is, a reason to say those things. So
Yeah.
it's like I'm still egos there.
Hmm.
So I see it. I see it in my peripheral, and I'm like, when it's time, I'll face you.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like waiting until it's an obvious, let's do this.
Great.
So
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like what it's, I love language and like the intricacy of it. There was something so subtle in what you shared, right? And I can resonate on this deeply, Armin. Like I give away a lot of free courses because, and I pack them out, the 50, 70 people, like it feels really good, huge results. And then the moment I want to like start charging for something, that story comes in, right? Of like, I don't know about this thing and will people show up or and it's just so interesting in the way that you language that. You were like, I get so close to doing it, and then I think I might look, and then the way your language shifted to like depersonalize yourself of like, well, I don't want to give them a reason to reject me.
mm,
And the identity structure, because this is a lot of the work I play in, is like, the identity or the beliefs belong to the identity. And so the belief was, something about what it means to be rejected, but the identity is actually even bigger, right? So this fear of the I am that you might become in the face of the belief becoming true, right? And the way in
mm,
which we take a step back and depersonalize ourselves to being like, well, I don't even want to own that I could be, whether it's bad, wrong, a charlatan, whatever, right? And they're all based in some 7-year-old vernacular. But
mm.
this, the way in which we, and you even said it, right? I'll wait till the time when it feels right. And when it feels right because it no longer feels wrong, right? Or I'm not wrong,
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. That it feels wrong until it feels right, which means
right?
why does it feel wrong? And questioning
Right.
that alone is what?
Well, and I think in my personal belief around all this is because there's some part of me that feels wrong in the languaging of I am wrong, right? And if
Mm.
I do this, then the feeling of being wrong is confirming the identity that I am wrong, and I don't like to feel that way.
Yeah, there's another big attachment I have towards having a big turnout. It's actually something I caught in my experiment that it was a constant pattern I came up, which is I define success by the volume of
Hmm.
response.
Sure.
Like it didn't even matter if I made a lot of money because obviously you charge a lot for a private client, you make a lot of money.
Hmm.
To me, the more closer identity I built for most of my life, actually, because I was a kid, I wanted to be like a singer, be famous.
Hmm.
And then when I grew up, I wanted to
I
be
could see
like a
that.
big speaker, so all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I realized actually one of my breakthroughs in an episode was that my defining factor of success is volume. Like a
Interesting.
lot of people saying
Yeah.
yes, which is why I always fantasized in business about selling like a small thing to like tens of thousands of people
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I actually wanted the audience, the mass validation, the attention
Yeah.
to like validate. I thought the more people that know me, the more validated I am. So that's still lingering there because even now, it's not even that I think it's less about the money, which is interesting, and more about I want more people in. So if it's free,
Hmm.
I have more people. Perfect example. I was charging $49 a month for the surrender school.
Hmm.
I only got up to 25 people.
Hmm.
That was depressing to me.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, my ego was like, bro, this is good shit. Why are more people? It's $50. Are you serious? It's like while I was deeply surrendering, right?
Of course.
For a whole year, it was like that.
Yeah.
And it was always like 5 to maybe 7 people on my calls. And I'm like, fuck, this should be 50 to 70 or 500 to 700. I'm
Yeah.
there. I'm ready. And a year later, when I started getting the private clients, I'm like, all right, I don't need to make money from this. What's the point of this? And I was hoping that the large growth of my Instagram would translate to conversions in that.
Yeah.
Because it would have been cool. Like the money would have been more of a validation for me that more people like the message and accept the message I'm sharing. That's more of like they accept me,
Yeah.
not that I'm making more money because I didn't need more money. So I made it free. Sure enough, we're almost about to hit 1,000 people. My
Hmm.
calls, 15 to 25. It's just not that much of a growth, but it's growth. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's good, more people.
Hmm.
And I'm happier
Hmm.
and I don't want to touch it because I have more people.
Yeah.
So I realized my distinction was actually for success, mass volume, not
Yeah.
mass money.
Yeah.
Which is probably a bad philosophy for business. 'Cause at least for me, I was unwilling to like. I was trying to do things for less. Ironically, though, I always charged so much money, but I was always just so upset because I had a smaller group to work with. I don't know, man. There's a lot of confusion around this part of me that I'm still working on.
Yeah.
If you see anything, I'd love to know your insights.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. So there was two things, right? Well, one is just a perception over here of like, wow, that's amazing that you integrated the belonging aspect. And one of my favorite quotes is every level has a new devil. And
Yeah.
so the next level of now that you belong, are you accepted? Right? Because you can be in the room and belong there, but do people like you? And then remembering that attendance doesn't equal alliance, and so
Damn. Damn, that's you just give me a whole new layer to think about now.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so in that, right, I'm curious, I have a question for you is what would it take for it to shift from volume to impact?
I guess I still think volume is impact. Maybe
Hmm.
that's probably the misconception I'm making, which is tying how many people are in my audience to how much impact I'm making.
Yes.
Because like I can talk to one person, they'll like I've had a couple cases where like they were gonna kill themselves and they didn't. It's
Yeah.
like that's like massive
That's
impact.
massive impact.
And then I look at that, I'm like, yeah, it's beautiful, but would I trade that one life? This is a very deep, crazy question, actually. Would I trade
Appreciate you
that
going
one
there.
life I saved for 1,000 people on a Zoom webinar? Fuck. Like,
Yeah.
damn. See, now this is the kind of question I like asking because this is what brings you to the test.
Hmm.
It's like, who really has your heart?
Hmm.
And my initial response was, I'd want 1,000 people. But
Hmm.
then the question becomes, and I'm willing to let someone die to have the illusion of mass validation. Because if I'm honest, I just want to be massively validated from 1,000 people in an audience to
Yeah.
feel like I'm making an impact. But truly, if everyone walks away and no one cares about what I said, whatever, attendance is an alliance. That one person I could have changed their life. So the real shift I have to make is going from that one life is more important than the
Hmm.
1,000 audience members. And I think just bringing my awareness to that alone makes it very clear to me what the answer has to be
Hmm.
for me. Like it's obvious that's illusion, this is true. It doesn't mean they can't be both in my reality, but
Yeah.
if I'm deciding, obviously the one life is far more important than 1,000 people being minorly affected by a talk I do. But it's crazy. Until I actually positioned that question that way, I didn't realize how much I care more about that than the impact of one life, dude.
Yeah.
That's like an ugly truth to face.
And I really appreciate your willingness to go there. You know,
Damn.
this is the human, you know, this is human. You know, this is the shit we don't talk about is the realities of how ego comes in is like, yeah, and right or but and this real struggle that we have in the paradigm of whether you want to call it money or numbers or just the way like the fact that Instagram the name of the count is followers so weird to me, you know,
Mhm.
and to have a part of us that wants to belong and feel accepted and feel validated and also understand like shit when there's 1,000 people in the room I can't call people up on stage all day and spend 20 minutes going deep into their stuff because
No.
well sorry Jim we got to go on to the next dude so all right Steve you're up you know it's
Dude, that means that the work I'm doing now is the highest impact I could be doing. See, I
yes
never even connected to that,
yes
that I have time. Like even on my today's wisdom call, my group, I was able to take on 5 one-on-ones because there was like 12 to 15 people there. But
right
if it was 1,000, it would literally be a webinar where I'm just talking and,
yeah yeah
damn, damn. Dude, this is a great breakthrough for me.
I love
Real
that
in real time right here.
I I love that
Like that decision's been made.
yeah
That the one life is more important. And
yeah
that and I feel my truth is there. Like that's where truth is and God is. And I think I'm finally ready to let go of the craving 1,000 people being
mm, mm.
in front of me
I love that
in exchange for real impact. And again, I want to make this clear for everyone watching. It doesn't mean you can't have both. Like, but what the wisdom I'm experiencing right now, that's being revealed is when the impact, when the actual fruit of the truth of what we're sharing matters more. I'm sure, ironically, as it happens before, audience shows up, but it doesn't
yeah
matter to me anymore. Like, because I'm like, I really would have chosen the audience, the 1,000 people over the one life.
for
That
sure
that ugly truth facing. And I'm like, yo, dude,
yeah
that's not happening. Because now I'm aware of it. I could choose differently. I don't want that. I want to be helping. And I'm doing that, which is odd because that's exactly what I'm doing. I have deep conversations with a few people every week. And I've been secretly fantasizing when is it going to become a large audience. And I think it's just that attachment's gone now.
yeah
Now I really get it. Thank you for putting that in perspective for me, bro.
very welcome
That was
thank
a
you
big moment.
yeah thank you for being available to that and you know what to me this is like the quantum right had you not moved to that call 5 minutes ago, this call would have ended and this
Yeah.
never would have happened.
Yeah, look
Right.
at that.
So you surrendered at the beginning of this to be available for the
Yeah.
opportunity to see that your volume is not your impact is your
Mm,
impact. Because more is not better, better is better. And if you
mm,
were aiming for this, I would need 1,000 people in front of me, you wouldn't see that the one person in front of you is just like 10 million people.
mm, mm, mm,
And when you
mm.
surrender that, you become available to a stadium full of people that realizes that Armin's willing to look at his deep, dark secrets and ugly truths or whatever you want to call it. And then they're like, oh my God, I want to go tell this to every single person. And now instead of 400,000 followers, you have 40 million followers.
Yeah, dude, even more, even yogically and poetically, one person is 1,000 lifetimes.
100%. Right.
Yeah, bro. One
Yes.
soul that you're
Yes.
helping is like a
Yes.
1,000 lifetimes they've lived.
Right.
How deep is that? That's some poetic shit right there. So instead of 1,000 people in front of you, you have one soul that's lived
Oh,
1,000 lives.
yeah.
So now you're helping them. It's like, bro, that's the largest audience you could have. Crazy.
Oh my goodness.
I love that. That's actually a great,
That's a really
great.
beautiful way to put it. You know, as
Yeah.
Vivekananda said, like your number of past lifetimes, if you stack them one on top of another, would be higher than Mount Everest.
Damn.
Right. So you have 15 people on this call. You've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people lined
Yeah.
up, ancestors praying for this moment, this conversation right now. You get to be that.
Damn, bro. The truth of the depth of that work, it just hitting me now. Damn. Crazy, bro. Whew. That was good. That was
Yes,
a great, great conversation.
I was, man. Thank you for going there and allowing me to be part of it.
Mm. Yeah, thanks for being a good anchor throughout it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, a couple rapid fire questions. We'll wrap up.
Let's do it.
Armin, if you had a message to share with the world, what would it be?
You are all of it, and all of it is God.
Man, we could spend a whole nother conversation talking about all of your recent Instagram God posts. I love watching and reading the comments, bro. They're so fun. I like just pull up popcorn, just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, bro. Actually the answer to that question came at a funny time. I had this friend of mine last year who bought me 2 years ago, who bought me this journal when I was having my first psychedelic experiences. I was like having serious Christ consciousness awakenings, Kundalini, everything. I was just like crazy. And I was feeling everything as oneness with God and everything is me. And she gave me this journal. She's like, this is a gift for you for your birthday. I'm like, thank you. She goes, I'm like, what's it for? She goes, just, I don't know, write down like the things that you channel, like the wisdom God gives you. So I'm like, cool. So one day I'm sitting there and I see the journal and I open it up and I wrote down 5 words. And then I closed it and it was the journal was done. I wrote down 5 words and I closed the journal. I'm like, this is all I have left. If I died right now, this is the full ultimate truth that I could have possibly grasped in my human self. And you open it up and it just says, you are all of it.
Yes,
So
that's a shirt.
that's you're all of it. And it's like in that encompasses the infinite layers of truth.
Yes.
You're all of it. If you just come down to it, you're all of it. And then all of it is God is just a beautiful touching point. So that's why it was easy to, I'm like, that's the thing that's living in me that I live through. Sorry.
Mm.
Next question. I've stopped your rapid fire.
No, it's so good. No, it doesn't have to be rapid answers. No, I love that, and dude, sell merch. I like my marketing brain is just like I have
I'll
these
make
shirts,
t-shirts with you, bro. That sounds
dude.
great.
I'll
I've thought
send
about
you.
merch
Yeah,
with
dude, just that,
like
like you are all of
one-liners.
it, and then the name of the brand is All God.
Oh, I love it. I
Oh,
love it. That's a good one.
yeah. Okay, second one. What does it mean to be human?
To be a child made out of sand, building a sandcastle on the beach.
I love that visual. I love
God
it.
is the sand. We are the child, and the castle is the life we're building.
Mm,
And it's all just part of one thing.
mhm, mm,
Sand can't experience itself, so child is created so that the sand can experience what it's like to be itself.
mm,
That's how I see myself as being the arm through God experiences, feeling himself.
mhm, mm.
Yeah.
Reminds me of a quote I heard once that was, "God is the DJ, life is the song, and you are the dance."
That's gorgeous. I love that.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful one. Yeah.
very similar, very similar,
Yeah.
similar tapestry. Okay, last question. Where can the audience find more of what you're up to?
Instagram. Instagram is where I'm primarily at. And then my school is where I spend time with people inside. But Instagram is just the Armin Chef. I wish I could change it, man. I built that when I was in business. I want to put the Armin Chef. I wish I could just put Armin Shafee now, but it's stuck. So it's the Armin Shafee.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. And I'm on TikTok too, but I just repost on TikTok, but it's all Instagram. I talk to people in my DMs there. I
great,
post there. And then all my other stuff that happens, I promote there.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll link everything in the bio and direct people to school as well.
Yeah.
Amazing, brother.
Thank you for an awakening conversation.
Yes, very engaging. This is wonderful, brother. I really appreciate the time.
Ugh, so good.
Yeah,
We should do this again sometime.
I would love that, man. I would love that.
Yeah, I love it.
Whether it's here on Maui or in the jungle of Colombia or
Colombia.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting you in person, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks to the audience for your time and your attention and presence here today. And until the next one, aloha.